linkedin.com/guideustv. Get guided with Guide Us TV. Get connected with Guide Us TV. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/guideustv1. Join us on Google+, plus.google.com/+guideustv.
Stay tuned. More coming up right here on Guide Us TV. Stay tuned. More coming up right here on Guide Us TV.
How can you get rewards like we do? 3 things you can do. Make dua for us and include yourself in the us. Number 2, share Islam.com and share the emotions that you have when you think about being a Muslim. And number 3, join us. Support DawahPartners.com. It's easy, real easy.
Stay tuned. More coming up right here on
A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life, a complete way. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life, a complete way. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life, a complete way. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life, a complete way.
And we are coming to you almost live from our studios here in Southern California. And bear with me because I've got to get some people in here and doing our thing. So stay tuned and stay guided. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Yusuf Estes with really good news. But first, many people are hearing things about Islam, but they are not getting the right message. So the best time to get the right message out is right now. And we have the best way to do exactly that with Allah's support and your help. We've got our projects, our websites, satellite TV channels, and now we can reach every home on the planet, inshallah. Let's make that difference together. It's easy. And be my Dawah partner. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah. So I'm still looking for the people, and bear with us. We'll just play this one more time.
A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life, a complete way. A way of life, a way of life, a way of life, a way of life. Islam is a way of life, a complete way.
Thanks to all of you for watching, sharing, and spending your time with us on Guide Us TV. And remember, tell everyone, stay guided with Guide Us TV.
Get connected with Guide Us TV. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/guideustv1. Join us on Google+, plus.google.com/plus-guideustv. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/guideustv1. Find us on Flickr, flickr.com/photos/guideustv. And add us on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/guideustv. Get guided with Guide Us TV.
And now we are live. How do you like
Yes, we are.
Ah.
Hey, I'm in a circle. Dominic, welcome, everyone.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. I don't know why it did this. I don't know how it did it, but what do you think?
It is what it is. That's all I'm going to say. So I think we have some things that are interesting to talk about. But before that, tomorrow I'm planning on taking a little trip. I'm going to north of here to a place called Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is the capital city of New Brunswick. And I'm going to spend a little time there. So I'm packing up my gear and stuff that I'm taking with me so I can still do the live show. And so, yes, it should be quite interesting.
Well, yeah, this is interesting to me because you're saying you're going to go further north, right?
Yes, it's about an hour drive from here.
Yeah. And I think that everybody in Canada should come south to get warm.
That would be nice if, well, actually, they call them snowbirds. Oh, now I'm in a smaller circle. Yeah, I don't know how you got the circles, but yeah, okay. So yeah, they call them the Canadians that travel south. They call them snowbirds because they go down in the wintertime.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't do anything except turn it on. And I don't know why it has circles, but I saw that they were modifying what they are doing. So maybe, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Well, we'll deal with the circles for now. And so, what would be an interesting topic to talk about tonight?
Well, I sent you something, and I think that you looked at it, right?
Yes, a couple of times, and well, yeah. And like I said, it's an interesting topic to talk about it, but I'll let you start it off, and because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, and maybe once you start explaining it, it'll be a little helpful for not just me, for everybody else that's listening.
Okay, so I have it in Arabic, but most of our listeners are not Arabs, so I got to switch it over here first.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It doesn't work. Oh boy, they changed a lot of stuff.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. The idea is the 5 things, and the Prophet ﷺ, he said what means in English. Oh, assembly of immigrants. So he was talking to the people who migrated. There are 5 things. If they occur among you, I seek refuge in Allah if you encounter them. 5 things, and we're going to talk about all of the 5 things, but I don't know if we'll have time tonight to go over it, but we'll try. Number 1, immorality has never appeared amongst any people. And then they openly declare it. Okay, so immorality has always been around, probably. And he's saying that if you declare it. Now, one of the things that is considered immoral in the Bible is homosexuality. Yeah. So, and it's very clear, very clear. That's one of the things. And he said, plagues, illness, not existing. Plagues and illnesses not existing before. And nobody ever heard about that before. Yeah, like the pandemic that we just went through. A couple of years ago, nobody had any idea what this was. And then it started taking lives and complicating everything. So, plagues and illnesses not existing among predecessors spread amongst them. Now, that's the number 1 thing. So let's talk about that.
Well, when you look at different things that's going on in the world, different countries, and you know, when they're doing things nowadays that years ago, even when I was young, they wouldn't think of, or you know, even back further than that. You know, you go back, you know, hundreds of years, you know, even back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad. You wouldn't think of anybody being other than the gender that they are. And nowadays you have this, but you also look at what's going on around this and what's happening around people and stuff like that. And the really interesting thing too, when it comes to behavior of people are, at one point you look at during the, you know, the 60s, the 50s and 60s, how people would dress and how people would behave with each other. People were very polite to each other. You would see a lot more, you know, courtesy towards each other. And so when you look at those things, and then you look at what's happening to people in regards to their health, I think there's a coalition based on what you were reading.
Actually, what I remember, I was alive in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s. So what I remember is the 1940s compared to the 60s. The 60s, that was the time of the short skirts, really short skirts. A lady couldn't even bend over for fear of showing her underwear. So, yeah, and that is the time, exactly the time in the 60s, mid 60s to late 60s, when they invented or came up with the idea of the string bikini. You know, it doesn't cover anything. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to take exception to what you said about the 60s. I lived through it, and I really...
Well, see, the thing is, when you look at the 60s in where I lived compared to the 60s where you probably lived, because this part of Canada was even different, say, than Toronto or Montreal. So this is what I'm going by, what what I seen. And yes, there were mini skirts, but yet, that was the starting of, you can almost say, the downfall of society to where it is now, because you got the Prime Minister of Canada at this was 1969 in regards to because at that time, before that time, homosexuality was against the law, and he said the government of Canada has no place in the bedroom of the people. So they were governing what's happening in the bedroom. So that's where that's where that whole thing started going downhill.
Okay.
So anyway, going back to what we're really talking about, and the idea that because of certain things, diseases happen.
Yeah. Actually, what about the disease that happened just a couple years ago? They said that never before. And keep in mind, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said this over 1400 and what? 1445 45 years ago. That's a long time. And he said that. He said that the number one thing that he listed is a pestilence or a pandemic, or what was it translated as? Plagues. A plague. And I went out to in Aqsa. I was there in Aqsa, and I visited with a brother, and he took me out to meet his mother, who was in a separate city from and it was Palestine, but not Jerusalem. Anyway, we went to her, and on the way, he visited a place and took me out of the car, and he said, "Look at this." And they were graves. They had little houses built out of bricks, of stuff. And I don't know who did that, but he said 5,000 of the Muslims are laying in these graves. And I said, "Oh man, who wiped them out?" He said, "Allah." I said, "Huh?" He said, "Because this was a plague. And it was the time of Omar." And the time of Omar, and you think, well, he was a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And before he died, it was just a few years before that, these people, these 5,000, had gone to battle. And they had this disease came on them when they stopped in this place. The place that we stopped at, I can't remember the name of it, but they said, "Contact Omar," and they sent somebody out to contact Omar, and he said to the person, he said, "If you have a plague, go back," because the Prophet ﷺ, this is where the hadith comes from. The Prophet ﷺ said, "If there is a plague, don't leave. If you're in it, don't leave. Don't go out. And if you are out, don't go in." That's what the translation of what he said. Any
Yes.
comment?
Well, so when you're looking at that, and it's true. I mean, when any time that you hear about any type of disease that you could catch, and you're say if you're planning on traveling there, or you just don't, because, or if you have something, say if there was something in this building, say the flu or whatever, I wouldn't travel for that simple reason, because I may be a carrier. So that way there, say something would happen that I found out that this was going on tomorrow. Well, my trip to Fredericton would be postponed for that reason, so that the people that I would get in contact with in Fredericton wouldn't get sick. So that's the idea when you think about this. And so you always keep these things in mind when you're traveling anyway, because you don't want to travel anywhere when you're sick or anybody else is around you that's sick, that you could be a carrier. But anyway, I'll pass it back to you. Maybe we could, is there any more that we could talk about this, or?
Yeah, actually, at the time of Spain, they had something called, I saw that smile on your face. You thought
Yeah, I know what you're going to talk about, so go ahead.
Okay. So there was, in the Spanish language, they said, what means is don't come in for certain number of days, 40 days. Do you know how to say 40 in Spanish?
No.
I'm going to let you think about that a little bit. And maybe you can research it and see. However, this is a name that we use worldwide today for the checking out of a person. They have them in what?
Quarantine.
40.
Oh.
40. You figured it out. You said quarantine is exactly 40. That means 40. Because they would not allow the ships to come, and this was a Muslim country at that time. Spain was under the rule of Islam for about 800 years. Did you know that?
Yes, because you talked about, well, we talked about it multiple times on the show, but it's always good to talk about it, because you never know who's watching that's a new person or persons watching. So it's always good to talk about these things again, because maybe they never heard it or didn't know about it. So this is always important to do this.
Spain was really, really a go-to place at that time, because they had the time of the Dark Ages of Europe was the golden ages of Islam. Did you know that?
Oh, yes, I knew that. And when you look at, what do when you look at the contrast of the two, in the fact that, things were being destroyed in regards to the Dark Ages. But if you look at the books and things that Muslims were saving, and if they wouldn't have saved them, we wouldn't have this knowledge nowadays, plus all the knowledge that the Muslims during this time brought to us. Do you realize the number 0, actually numbers in itself, counting, because before that, they were using Roman numerals. So can you imagine? If it wouldn't be for Muslims, we'd be still using Roman numerals.
try to divide by Roman numerals. You'll go crazy. And
well, even just adding and subtracting is hard enough. I mean, think about it. So, but there's algebra, there's so many other things but yet, because of certain people and their prejudices and how can I put this? They like to whitewash things so that it makes it look like only white people that are Christian came up with these wonderful ideas. But they were in the dark ages during this time.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So I was going to try to put up something so that people could see the numbers, but I just have to, for our audience at home, I want to explain the number 10, okay? A 0 starts it, okay? A 0, and that's nothing. That's a 0, it meant nothing. 0, okay? And then the 1. 1 had a little stick on it like that, like the aleph. Yeah? So 1, because it had 1 angle. Then 2 angles. It was a Z. That became a 2. But they could round it up and twist it around. But it was exactly a Z because it had 2 angles. 3 had 1, 2, 3 because it had 3 angles. 3 angles. 4 had a straight line and then an angle off of that and then an angle across. So now imagine there was an angle. You had to stop on the post though. You didn't make the 4 like this. You made it like standing up, okay, and then okay, that way. All right? And stop, because you had an angle at both places, under and over, and an angle at the top, and an angle over here. I'm trying to show you, maybe you see it. Anyway, 5 had 5 angles. 6 had 6 angles. 7 had 7 angles. That's where you see the European 7 and it has a cross on it. That is not anything related to the cross of the Christians. It was one of the angles, 1, 2, 3, 4, because it had, you measure each angle, okay? And then it had the top of it, it had an angle, okay? So that had 7 angles. 8 was a square on top of a square, okay? 8 angles. 9 had 9 angles. And then that's 0, no angles. 1, 1 angle. 2, 2 angles. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you start over again, 1 with a 0. Okay, so that's 1 angle and a 0. Anyway, alhamdulillah. And somebody thought that it came from India, but the 0, no matter where it came from the Muslims. because they were trying to show that it was not to the best intention for people to use the Roman numerals to multiply, add, subtract, or even divide. You couldn't do that, multiply anything like that. So this is where the number system that we have today, that's why it's called Arabic numerals. Your thoughts?
My thoughts. Well, when you're looking at that, and the other thing too, speaking of looking, because the other thing that was invented, and right now you wouldn't be able to see us, was the idea of a camera. And this actually goes back to us. What was the fella's name? He was a little pinhole in where he was, and he seemed like on the wall, it was the image, upside down image that he would see.
I think it was a tent. Was it? I think he saw that in a tent. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, the cameras, the science, the medicine, all of that can be traced back to the Muslims of the golden age of Islam. At a time where the people were calling it the Dark Ages and Black Ages, and because they had so much pandemic, they had a real big problem with all of the stuff that they were doing, and they couldn't figure it out. It was when their children came to, and this was a big deal, because if you had a child that was going to Spain to learn, you say, oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, from the Muslims. Today, it's the reverse. Anybody in Saudi Arabia or something like, the Arab countries going to America, oh yeah, or England, oh, Cambridge, oh yeah, Yale University. Anyway, so at that time, the people were really praising the idea, but the children brought back the things that were doing, washing their hands. They were trained in the schools, you wash your hands before you do anything else. Now today, and that is a poster in every single place that has any food items at all. They say a warning, they're talking to their own employees. Wash your hands. They get fired for that. If they use the bathroom and don't wash their hands, and somebody tells them, they will fire you right away. So,
yes. And with that, I'm looking at the time, and I think it's a good time to take a break. And so with that, stay tuned and stay guided with Guide Us TV.
Guide Us TV, watched by many, loved by all. New Muslims, young Muslims, born Muslims, non-Muslims, all enjoy it. Guide Us TV, never ads, always free. Let's keep it free, no ads. Support and share, and get guided with Guide Us TV.
Get connected with Guide Us TV. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/guideustv1. Join us on Google+, plus.google.com/+guideustv. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/guideustv1. Find us on Flickr, flickr.com/photos/guideustv, and add us on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/guideustv. Get guided with Guide Us TV.
Stay tuned. More coming up right here on Guide Us TV.
Salam alaikum. I'm Yusuf Estes with really good news. But first, many people are hearing things about Islam, but they are not getting the right message. So the best time to get the right message out is right now. And we have the best way to do exactly that with Allah's support and your help. We've got our projects, our websites, satellite TV channels, and now we can reach every home on the planet, inshallah. Let's make that difference together. It's easy. And be my dawah partner.
Stay tuned. More coming up right here on Guide Us TV.
How can you get rewards like we do? 3 things you can do. Make dua for us and include yourself in the us. Number 2, share islam.com and share the emotions that you have when you think about being a Muslim. And number 3, join us. Support dawahpartners.com. It's easy, real easy.
Stay tuned. More coming up right here on Guide Us TV.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We are back and we're talking about some of the things that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said what means in English that if people are doing immoral things and talking about it publicly, this is me translating it, retranslating it, but they're showing it. They're just showing it. Get ready. Because there was never a time when people did that except that they had these plagues and illnesses that nobody even was aware of before. And we were talking about the plagues, and we were talking about the thing that we had, the pandemic that we had just a year ago. Was it about a year ago that it ended?
Yeah, it was about a year ago that it actually, finally ended.
Still wear the mask. I've seen that.
Oh, my sister still wears a mask because where she's living in a nursing home, there's outbreaks of it. So she still wears a mask. Right now, she's in the hospital. She went through gallbladder surgery. As far as I know, she's doing well, but for some reason, and it's probably knowing the hospital, it's the only place they could put her, she's in isolation. So hopefully she'll get back home soon. I call her phone number just to see if she's going to answer the phone, but she's still in the hospital. And so, inshallah, things will work out for her. So, yeah. But yes, when you're looking at people wearing masks, I know even in this building, there's still people that wear a mask. I was talking to one lady on the bus the other day, and she wears a mask, and, it's a lot. They feel safer with it, and I have no problem with this.
Well, it's not about whether we have a problem or not with it. It's the reality of people doing immoral things and talking about it, sharing that with everybody. And the social media was eat up with all of this immorality and people talking about it as though it was, and the schools are presenting it as, a bad thing. No, they're not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying it is a bad thing, and it's immoral. And
Well, when you look at even when Facebook, I'm going to pick, well, when social, I'm not going to say anything. When social media first started out, you look at the content that was there, and now you're seeing things. There's things that you don't want anybody else to see, especially your mother or anything like this, right? Because it's that embarrassing, but yet it's there for everybody to see.
yes, sir, that is that's what we're faced with. Maybe we could talk about the second thing that he said 5 things. So
Yes, let's get into the second one, and I think we got maybe enough time to almost cover all of it. I mean, the second one, not the whole 5. So go ahead.
okay, the next one is saying that the Prophet ﷺ said, number 2, they never diminish the measure and the scale, except, now what does that mean, measure and scale? Do you know what that means?
Not
Yeah.
exactly, but he's weighing something.
I had to figure it out, measure and scale. Okay, the scale, that is exactly what the hadith is talking about. It's the measuring stick of, whatever you're talking about. The measure of, and it says measure and scale. So when people are playing with the weight of something, like you go into a butcher shop and you pay for 10 pounds of meat, and then the butcher.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too, putting your thumb on the scale. And so you but this, for some people, this is what they did.
Yeah, this is exactly cheating people. But measure and scale can throw you off because it means cheating on any level. If you're taking away something or giving something more than they bargained for, yeah. If you're dealing with garbage, for instance, a company has trucks that go through and pick up 3 kinds of garbage. So 3 trucks come by our house every Monday. Okay. And what happens, though, there's 1 truck to pick up the garbage in the kitchen. 1 truck picks up the garbage that is recyclable. Another truck picks up any yard things, branches or leaves or grass that you've cut up anyway. So if you give too much of one or the other, like if you're putting in the one for the yard, okay, if you're putting the garbage in there, they'll find you. If they know who did it, you'll pay a fine. Did you know that? Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah. And I know in the Fredericton area, in the recyclable, before you could put in glass, but if it's broken, they didn't want you to put it in because it became a hazard. So you had to put that in a separate bin.
Okay, so we got that. And that's the first part of it. never appeared this before. Okay, the measure, the scale. Okay, the measure and the scale. They get stuck with years of famine and severity of hardship and the tyranny of the rulers over them. Sounds like some of the presidents we've had in the past, doesn't it?
Oh, sounds like some of the prime ministers we had in the past too.
Yeah, okay.
And also current, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything about the current criminal. Oh, what? That's.
Well, no, I'm talking about prime minister, so,
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. By the way, I heard something today that was really a good Muslim strongly talking about why we should have voted for Trump. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
But he laid out real strong about the current vice president being so worse. And he did a real good job of it. And he said it's not about which one you choose. You have to vote somebody that's going to be your leader. And he's mentioned he doesn't like either one of them. But this is the choice that you have, and you have to think. And he said that he answered all of the typical questions with Islam. And he said it is haq. You know it's haq.
I think you mentioned it before, but I forget.
Okay. It means the absolute truth. And that is what Allah says, when the haq comes, it destroys the batil. It destroys the fabrications, the lies, anything that is not haq, it destroys it. That's in the Quran. Anyway, so this is something that we really have to face, because years of famine, severity of hardship, and the tyranny of rulers over them. Now, this thing is maybe not clear to some of the people, because in California, they railroaded all of those people that are tent people. They call them tent people. But they have no home. They've lost their homes, they lost their jobs, and some of them are still working, but they don't have enough money out of their low-paying jobs to get a place. And now in California, it isn't about how much money you have, it's about how much credit you have. In California today, if you don't have the top rating of the credit, regardless of how much money you got, they won't let you even think about signing a document for a house, to rent a house or buy a house or sign up for it. So this is really, I think it's one of the hardships. The famine, the people are really starving to death in where? Right now, starving to death.
Well, there's quite a few places that people are starving to death.
Everybody's starving.
But when you're looking at Palestine,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I mean, this is the extreme of starvation. But you look at who's causing it.
Yeah. Now you get it. But there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ saying, Wahid min alf, one of 1,000, one in 1,000, or one from 1,000. Yeah, Wahid min. Min means from. Okay, one from 1,000. This is the one that gets into the paradise right away. Okay?
Okay.
One in 1,000. Today, Madeleine Albright, she said that when she was in office. She said 1 in 4. 1 out of 4 people on the earth are Muslim. Did you know that?
That's something to think about.
Yeah, and she didn't mince any words about it. She said 1 in 4 of the people on the earth are Muslims, and we got to do something about it. That is exactly the intent that she had, but she didn't say those words, but she did say 1 in 4. 1 in 4 are Muslim. And it's grown. I think that, well, this is not the proper time to go into that, but I think that there are more Muslims than people realize because of the Uyghur Muslims and so on. Anyway, but back to the subject, the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that when the measures and the scale, cheating, when this happens, you can look forward to starvation, famine, homelessness, and so on. So we see that, right?
Oh, yes. When you're looking, even in this province in Canada, the amount of homeless people that's here, and then you go to larger cities like Toronto, which is one of the larger cities in Canada, in the amount of homeless people there, and other parts of Canada that there's homeless people. And even my sister's talking about seniors being homeless. So when you're looking at this and going to what you're saying, you can see what's being said by the prophet. You know, these things are happening in our lifetime.
The severity of hardship is really, really the subject that we're talking about here. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ says, this is 1,450 years ago. 1,450 years ago, he says this. They are struck with their playing with the weights and measures. They're struck with years of famine, severity of hardship, and the tyranny of rulers over them. Today, the United States was formed by very, very clever people. Do you know that? Mostly it was by the rule of the Native Americans. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yes, because the Canada and the United States border, they didn't have a border, but that is where one of my ancestors came from. And that is not pertinent to the talk that we're having now. But anyway, at the time of the formation of the government, they had several people up above where they were working on coming up with the rules, and they would go up to those Native Americans and ask them, what about this? What about that? And that's where they came up with it. And Thomas Jefferson was, as far as we know, probably a practicing Muslim, because he took the oath of office on the Quran. He's the only president that has done that. He took the oath of office on the Quran, a translation of the Quran by George Sale. And George Sale did that in about 1722, 23, something like that. And Thomas Jefferson took his oath of office probably in 1780. So, yeah. Yeah.
So when you're looking at this and you're realizing that, you know, what's happening now and how, but what can we do? And we only got a couple of minutes, and I don't know if you can answer that question in a couple of minutes.
Well, the biggest thing that we can do is everybody accepts Islam and follows Islam. Yeah. And that's not going to happen.
No, and I'm going to say this because I'm looking at Canada the way it is now and thinking, what would Canada, how much better Canada would be if Canada would be a Muslim country. And
well,
go ahead.
When I first visited Canada in the 1960s, I was really impressed with the system that they had. People were really, really different. What do you think? Should we follow up with the next 3? We still have 3 tomorrow.
Yes, at this rate, we're probably going to only do 2. So with that, I'll let you close.
Okay. What should people do right now?
Stay tuned and stay guided.
With Guide Us TV.
Stay tuned. More coming up right here on Guide Us TV.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Yusuf Estes with really good news. But first, many people are hearing things about Islam, but they are not getting the right message. So the best time to get the right message out is right now. And we have the best way to do exactly that with Allah's support and your help. We've got our projects, our websites, satellite TV channels, and now we can reach every home on the planet, inshallah. Let's